Some families bury their secrets in the ground. Others hide them in silence. And a few, wealth enough, careful enough, bury them alive. Marcus Whitmore was raised to believe he was a miracle. An only child. At 32, he discovered he was the perfect heir who was built on someone else's grave. The unraveling began with a phone call from a woman who was running out of time, who knew what his parents had done, and who had nothing left to lose. Marcus Whitmore's life fit together like expensive architecture. Every angle deliberate. Every surface polished. At 32, he ran board meetings with his father's calculated coldness and attended charity galas with his mother's practiced warmth. His marriage to Senator Bradley's daughter looked good in photographs. His corner office overlooked Central Park. His last name opened doors that other men spent lifetimes trying to unlock. He knew exactly who he was supposed to be. Until the Tuesday his assistant buzzed with an unusual tremor in her voice. "There's a woman on line 3. She says her name is Elena Vasquez. She says she was your nanny when you were very small and that it's urgent." Marcus had had many nannies. Came with the territory of parents who treated child rearing like delegated labor. He didn't remember an Elena, but people from his childhood surfaced sometimes, looking for money or relevance. "Tell her to send whatever she wants to say in writing to Mr. Whitmore, she says it's about your brother." Marcus's hand stopped halfway to his coffee. "I don't have a brother." Something in his chest went cold and strange. He took the call. "Mr. Whitmore?" The voice was older, worn thin with illness and something heavier. "I'm sorry to contact you like this. Your parents made sure I couldn't reach you any other way. I don't know what you think you know, Ms. Vasquez, but you were 2 years old the last time I saw you. You had a stuffed elephant named Dumbo and you screamed whenever your father came in the room." Marcus felt something shift beneath his feet. "What do you want?" "I don't want anything. I'm calling because there's something you need to know, and I'm the only person left who can tell you. Your parents had another son before you. 13 months before. His name was Daniel. And they made him disappear. That's insane. I know how it sounds. But I was there, Mr. Whitmore. I helped them do it. And I've spent 30 years trying to live with that. Now I'm dying, and I can't anymore." Marcus should have hung up. Should have dismissed the stranger. Should have done any number of sensible things. Instead he said, "Where are you?" Elena Vasquez lived in a rent-controlled apartment that smelled like old books and illness. She answered the door in a bathrobe, oxygen tube coiled around her face like a leash. "You came," she said. "I wasn't sure. I haven't decided what I'm doing here yet," Marcus said. She led him to a kitchen table covered in manila folders. But when she sat down, she didn't open them. "Before I show you anything," she said, "I need you to understand something. I was 23 years old. I needed the job. And when your father threatened me, when he made it clear what would happen if I ever spoke, I believed him. I still believe him. Then why are you talking now?" "Because I found him. Your brother. He found me, actually. And when I saw what your parents had done to him, what they'd stolen," her hands shook. "Some things are worse than being afraid." She pushed a photograph across the table. It showed a young Catherine Whitmore, maybe 28, holding a newborn. The date stamp in the corner read March 15, 1993. Catherine looked radiant. Softer than Marcus had ever seen her. "Your mother with Daniel. 1 day old." Marcus stared at the photo. His mother's face was open, unguarded. Happy in a way that seemed almost obscene compared to the cool elegance she'd perfected by the time he was old enough to remember. "Keep looking," Elena said. The next photo showed the same baby at 6 months. Something was different. The way he held his head. The stiffness in his limbs. The odd angle of his body even propped against pillows. Cerebral palsy. Moderate to severe. They diagnosed it at 4 months. Marcus's mouth was dry. What happened to him? Your father. Elena's voice went flat. He said the timing couldn't be worse. The board was already questioning his leadership. There were rumors of a hostile takeover. He needed to project stability. Continuity. A future investors could understand. A disabled heir, he said, would raise questions he couldn't afford. That's evil. Yes. But evil doesn't always look like evil when you're inside it. Your father made it sound reasonable. Practical. He said Daniel would have a better life away from the pressure. That it was kinder. More humane. She pulled out a death certificate. Daniel William Whitmore. November 3, 1993. Cause of death, SIDS. He's dead then. That's what they told everyone. Small funeral. Closed casket. Your grandparents were destroyed. But they believed it. Elena's hands moved to another folder. But Daniel didn't die. Your father had a doctor, Harold Vance, who owed him money and silence. They faked the death certificate. They held a funeral with an empty casket. And then they gave Daniel to me. Gave him. To take upstate. To a place called Meadowbrook. Private care facility. Expensive. Discreet. They paid cash. Used a false name, Daniel Morrison. I signed papers saying I was his aunt. And every month, your father's lawyer would deposit money into an account for his care. $50,000 a year. Enough to keep him comfortable. Not enough to ask questions. Marcus felt sick. And my mother? Elena's face softened and hardened at once. Your mother fought. At first. But your father told her if she didn't agree, he'd have her declared unfit. He had doctors ready to testify she was having a breakdown. And she believed him. She knew what he was capable of. So she got pregnant with you. Gave him the heir he wanted. Marcus looked at his own birth certificate in the pile. April 2, 1994. 13 months after Daniel's supposed death. You visited him, Marcus said quietly. Daniel. Every month for years. Until your father fired me when you turned 2. He said I knew too much. Paid me $50,000 and made me sign NDAs that would have destroyed me if I broke them. But you kept visiting. For as long as I could. Until Meadowbrook closed 3 years ago and the residents scattered. I lost track of him then. She pulled out a letter. Recent. Addressed to her in shaky handwriting. Then this arrived 2 weeks ago. He found me. And he's asking questions I can't answer. Questions only you can. Marcus looked at the address on the letter. Brooklyn. He wants to meet me. He wants to know why his family threw him away. And I think you might be asking yourself the same question. Marcus didn't go right away. He spent 4 days having Elena's story verified. Hired a private investigator, found Dr. Vance's nurse, now retired in Florida. She confirmed everything. Cried when she talked about it. He pulled Meadowbrook's closure records. Found Daniel Morrison's transfer file. The photograph in the file showed a man in his 30s, body showed clear signs of cerebral palsy, but eyes sharp and alive. He could have stopped there. Could have written a check. Set up a trust. Made sure Daniel was comfortable and quiet. His lawyer, in fact, suggested exactly that. $10 million in a trust. Non-disclosure agreement. Clean. Quiet. No one gets hurt. Marcus almost did it. Sat with the papers in front of him for an hour. His pen hovering. It would be so easy. Daniel would be taken care of. The family would be protected. Marcus's life would continue unchanged. He thought about his father's cold pragmatism. About his mother's careful distance. About the way he'd spent 32 years being the perfect heir at the expense of a brother whose very existence was buried. He put the pen down. The facility in Brooklyn was clean but tired. Worn furniture. Scuffed floors. Nothing like what Whitmore money could have provided. A staff member led Marcus to a common room. "Daniel? You have a visitor." The man who turned in the motorized wheelchair was 33 years old. His left arm curled against his chest. His head tilted at an angle that looked painful. When he spoke, the words came slowly, with effort. But his eyes were clear and cold. "So. You came." Marcus had no idea what to say. "Elena told me. That I'm your brother. That our parents threw me away. That you're the replacement model." Daniel maneuvered his wheelchair closer. His movements were precise despite the difficulty. "I didn't know." "I know." Daniel's voice was flat. "That's the only reason I agreed to see you. You're a victim too. Just a different kind." "I'm not." "What? A victim?" "No, you're the heir to a fortune. You have a name, a life, a future. You just got all of it by accident. By being born able-bodied and available." The bitterness in his voice was surgical. "I spent 30 years thinking I was an orphan. That my parents died in a car crash. That's what they told me. That I had no one." Daniel's working hand gripped his wheelchair control. 30 years I thought I was alone. That my parents were dead. But they weren't dead. They just didn't want me. Because I came out wrong." The silence stretched. "What do you want?" Marcus asked finally. Daniel laughed, a bitter, broken sound. "What do I want? I want 30 years back. I want a childhood where I wasn't a secret. I want parents who didn't look at me like I was a mistake." He paused. "But since I can't have any of that, I'll settle for the truth. I want them to admit it. What they did. I want the world to know. And I want you to decide if you're your father's son, or if you're something else." Marcus didn't sleep much. He'd ordered a DNA test. The results came back 99.97% match. Brothers. He sat in his penthouse looking at the report and feeling his life divide into before and after. Before he knew he was built on someone else's grave. After. His father called him about a board meeting. His mother invited him to a gala. His wife complained about the florist for some charity event. Everyone moving through their perfect lives while Marcus stood still, watching the architecture crack. He kept thinking about Daniel in that group home. About 30 years of being told your parents were dead. About finding out they just hadn't wanted you. And he kept thinking about $10 million. Quiet. Clean. Easy. He met with his lawyer again. "I've drawn up the papers. Trust fund. Lifetime care. The best facilities money can buy. All he has to do is sign an NDA." Marcus looked at the documents. It would solve everything. Daniel would be comfortable. The family would be protected. Marcus could go back to his life. "Does he know about this offer?" Marcus asked. "We reached out. He declined to respond." "Of course he did. What if I do it anyway?" Marcus said. "Set up the trust. Give him the money. Don't require the NDA." His lawyer frowned. "Then you've established that the story is true. That your family has something to hide. And you have no control over what he does with that information. But he'd be taken care of." "Mr. Whitmore, may I speak candidly?" Marcus nodded. "This isn't about taking care of him. This is about you deciding who you are. Your father's son, protecting the empire. Or something else." Marcus went home and poured expensive scotch into a crystal glass and stood at his floor-to-ceiling windows looking at the city his father had conquered. He called his parents. "We need to have dinner. Friday. My place. Both of you." Richard Whitmore arrived exactly on time, already checking his phone. Catherine came in behind him, diamonds at her throat, perfume subtle and expensive. "This better be important," Richard said. "I'm flying to Toronto tonight." Marcus poured himself a drink. "Didn't offer them any. I met Daniel last week." The room went absolutely still. Catherine's face didn't change. But something behind her eyes did. Richard's expression remained neutral. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Yes you do. Marcus, if someone is running a scam." "Elena Vasquez isn't running a scam. Dr. Vance's nurse confirmed everything. Meadowbrook's records confirm it. The DNA test confirms it." Marcus set the test results on the coffee table. His father didn't look at them. "What do you want, Marcus?" "I want you to tell me it isn't true." "Would you believe me?" "Probably not. But I want to hear you try." Richard was quiet for a long moment. Then he sat down, carefully, and folded his hands. "We did what we thought was right at the time." Catherine made a small sound. Almost a gasp. "That's it?" Marcus said. "That's your explanation. What do you want me to say? That we were young and scared? That the board was circling? That the doctors said he'd need round-the-clock care, specialists, equipment? That we made a choice to protect this family? You made a choice to erase a child. We gave him the best care money could buy. We made sure he was comfortable. Safe. You faked his death. We gave him privacy. Protection from a world that would have seen him as a weakness. As something to exploit." The calm in his father's voice was more horrifying than anger. "You actually believe that," Marcus said quietly. "I did what was necessary." Marcus turned to his mother. "And you? What did you do?" Catherine's hands were shaking. "I didn't have a choice. Everyone has a choice." "No." Her voice cracked. "Not everyone. Not when your husband has lawyers and doctors ready to declare you unfit. Not when you know exactly how far he'll go. So you got pregnant with me. Got him the replacement he wanted." Catherine looked at him with something that might have been desperation or might have been pleading. "You were supposed to fix it. You were supposed to make it better." The words hit Marcus like a physical blow. "I was just another child who could have just been born like Daniel," he said. "I wasn't supposed to fix anything." "I know." Catherine was crying now, mascara tracking down her perfect face. "I know that. But I thought if I gave him what he wanted, maybe he'd let me bring Daniel home. Maybe we could be whole again. But he never did. And then you were here and you were perfect and everyone was happy and I just tried to survive. By forgetting him. By pretending it hadn't happened. By playing the role I was given." Richard stood. "This conversation is pointless. What's done is done. If you want to set up a trust for the boy, fine. We'll make sure he's taken care of." Quietly. "But we are not discussing this further. He is not a boy. He is a man. And his name is Daniel. I know his name. Do you?" Marcus stood to face his father. "Do you know anything about him? That he has a master's degree? That he's been advocating for disabled children? That he's brilliant and funny and angry and he deserved better than you gave him? What do you want me to say, Marcus? That I'm sorry? Fine. I'm sorry. Are we done?" The coldness in his father's voice was complete. "No," Marcus said. "We're not done. Because Daniel wants the truth to come out. He wants the world to know what you did." "Absolutely not. And I'm going to help him." Richard's face went hard. You'll destroy this family. The business. Everything I've built. Everything you stand to inherit. I know. For what? Some misguided sense of justice? He's been fine all these years. He doesn't need. Don't you dare, Marcus said, voice shaking. Don't you dare tell me what he needs. You don't get to decide that. Not anymore. His father stared at him. Then, quietly, you're making a mistake. Probably. But it's my mistake to make. Richard left without another word. Catherine lingered for a moment, looking at Marcus with something that might have been pride or might have been grief. I understand if you hate me, she said. I don't hate you, Mom. I don't know who you are. She nodded slowly. After they left, Marcus stood alone in his perfect apartment and felt the weight of these revelations. He thought about his father's cold pragmatism. His mother's broken justifications. The 32 years of lies his life was built on. Then he took a decision that would cost him everything. Marcus's lawyer begged him not to do it. His wife told him he was destroying their lives. The board of directors sent a cease and desist letter that arrived 15 minutes before he walked on stage. He did it anyway. The room was packed. Cameras shoulder to shoulder. Whitmore Industries was New York royalty, any scandal was blood in the water. Marcus stood at the podium alone. My name is Marcus Whitmore. I'm the CEO of Whitmore Industries. I'm not here to manage a crisis. And I'm not here to protect a brand. He paused. Swallowed. I'm here because 33 years ago, my family erased a child. The room went still. My parents had a son before me. His name is Daniel. He was born with cerebral palsy. And instead of loving him, they hid him. They falsified records. They told our family he had died. A reporter shouted something. Marcus raised a hand, reflexively, then seemed surprised at himself. I know this sounds unbelievable. It sounded unbelievable to me too. I didn't want to believe it. I tried very hard not to. The room erupted. But Marcus kept talking. About Daniel. About Meadowbrook. About the lies his entire life was built on. I'm not here to ask for sympathy. I had every advantage. But my brother, the real Whitmore heir, had none. Because my parents decided he wasn't perfect enough. Wasn't marketable enough. Wasn't convenient enough. I'm stepping down as CEO effective immediately. I'm calling for a full investigation into my parents' actions. He took a breath. I'm also establishing a foundation in my brother's name. Not as charity. As acknowledgement. Because no child should ever grow up believing they were erased for being imperfect. The questions came like machine gun fire. The fallout was immediate and vicious. Whitmore Industries stock went into free fall. Richard Whitmore resigned from the board within 48 hours. Catherine checked into a psychiatric facility upstate. Criminal investigations were launched, though most statutes of limitations had expired. Civil suits piled up. The company Marcus's grandfather had built began to fracture. But the personal cost was worse. Marcus's wife filed for divorce within a week. I didn't sign up for this, she said. Friends stopped returning calls. Invitations dried up. People Marcus had known his entire life suddenly couldn't make eye contact. The board removed him from his position. Froze his access to family accounts. His father's lawyers tied up his trust fund in litigation. Within 3 months, Marcus had lost his marriage, his job, his friends, his money, and his name. He moved into a studio apartment in Queens. Got a job consulting for a small nonprofit. Learned what it meant to be ordinary. And every Sunday, he visited Daniel. One Sunday, after a particularly painful silence, Daniel said, "You know you didn't have to destroy your life for me. Yes, I did. Why? Guilt? Because it was the truth. And I'd spent my whole life living a lie. Daniel was quiet for a long time. I'm not going to suddenly think you're a hero. Or forgive our parents. Or pretend we're some happy family. I know. Then why do you keep coming? Marcus thought about it. Because you're the only real thing I have left. Daniel's expression was unreadable. That's dark. Yeah. Another long silence. Then, quietly, same time next week? Yeah, Marcus said. Same time. As he walked away, he thought about his old life, the penthouse, the power, the certainty of knowing exactly who he was.